So allow me to tell you all about how crazy my last week and a half was.
Yeah.
Oh, do tell.
So, as all of you who are listening probably know, I am writing a TTRPG book called All the Witches. And in the past week and a half, it's kind of blown up a lot. So for those of you who don't know, Wizards of the Coast, the company that owns Dungeons and Dragons, have shot the bed in a big way. And I'm not going to, I won't go into it really on this podcast, but because of that, people have been looking at indie TTRPG projects a lot the past like 2 weeks or so. So about a week and a half ago, I put out one tweet from the All the Witches account with like some thoughts on it. And the tweet did like really well. Well, not like super well, but it did pretty well. And then after that, on Saturdays in the TTRPG sphere, there's something called Self-Promo Saturday, where people will start these self-promo threads and you can comment under them with like what you're working on, and we'll kind of like boost each other and support each other.
Uh-huh.
When I've done those in the past on the All the Witches account, generally they do very well. And
I love seeing them when you post them. I'm like, wow, look, 100, 200, 300 like interactions.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. A lot of those threads get like 60 likes is normally like each week kind of one of the higher threads. Generally it's rare to get past like 60 or 70. And when I post them, normally I'll get like 100 to 200 likes. And I think like on this most recent one, I got like 250 likes. And then it just worked out that that Friday I had kind of submitted our Kickstarter to Kickstarter for review. And once they approve it, they'll give you kind of like a pre-launch page where you can send out the link, people can follow it. And so Kickstarter approved the Kickstarter or the pre-launch page and like the Kickstarter overall that Saturday. So while this post was doing really well, I also posted the Kickstarter link in a tweet, and that tweet did super well. Let's see, it's currently at 319 likes and almost 200 retweets.
Nice.
And my goal for that first weekend was to have 50 followers for the project. And by the end of the weekend, I think we had almost 200.
Nice.
And then then it came out. So Wizards of the Coast sends out kind of like little gift boxes to people every once in a while, mainly like influencers in the space. And so they sent out this big gift box, and people started receiving it the week that all of the Dungeons and Dragons stuff was going down. And then it was found out they stole the designs for multiple of the things that they sent out to people, and they just made it themselves and put like the D&D brand logo stuff on it. So people were like, Wizards, what the fuck? So on top of like people already being mad at Wizards, there's also this new thing that people were extra mad at Wizards for. And so I ended up doing... No, what's up?
I can't help but be consistently impressed with how incredibly clumsily they managed to fumble every single thing they have done in the last like 5 years.
It's absolutely everything at this point too, because I feel like the only stuff I'm not like actively part of the TTRPG space in any way whatsoever. I've never played a game of Dungeons and Dragons even, but like the only stuff I ever hear from Wizards of the Coast is that they're fucking something up again.
Yeah. Yeah. They big time dropped the bag this time. But so they did this, and it became a very public thing. And so I decided, I was like, All the Witches is getting a lot of attention right now. let's do a giveaway and support kind of these businesses that Wizard stole from.
Yeah.
And for one, it's a great thing because I want to support like those businesses anyway.
Of course, yeah.
But then obviously it'll draw more attention to All the Witches, and I just posted the Kickstarter link, so blah. So I did that giveaway.
Selfish.
It is ultimately selfish, yeah.
Just a little bit.
But it's nice. I did it was kind of like a 3-part tweet. I'm looking at it now. So it was like giveaway, information about the companies and stuff, and then information about the open D&D movement. And then at the very end, I put also, if you don't know who we are, here's us.
Nice.
But super smooth.
Yeah.
Not leading with the promo so people build up goodwill and they don't think that you're shilling.
Yeah, it feels so much less like it's just a promo.
It's so hard to
God, it is shilling, and I feel bad about it, but
don't feel bad.
You
chill.
Fucking
chill.
You're shilling
away.
the right things, and you're most importantly, it's counter shilling to be against Wizards of the Coast. That's good. That's good shit.
Mm-hmm.
But so I did the giveaway. The giveaway just ended, and I announced the winner and everything. But the giveaway had 896 likes and 627 retweets. So that also got us out there a lot. And now at this point, for the first couple weekends of the Kickstarter pre-launch page being live, originally I was like, if we had 100 followers, that'd be dope. After a couple weekends,
right?
We have a couple months until the Kickstarter, so I was like, that's a lot of time that I can do self promo Saturdays and kind of get our name out there. We currently have, I think it was 397 or 98 followers, 392 followers. So we're basically almost at what we would need to fund our project and followers if all of those followers buy the lowest tier of what we're offering.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, before all of those tweets popped up, we had about 850 followers. And then today we have 1,687 followers.
Ooh.
Nice.
Nice.
The project has popped off a lot in the past week, and every tweet that's been tweeted out has done really, really well. And it's really cool, and people are really excited about it, but that just makes me more and more nervous. But that's life,
Oh, sure.
I was saying, it's only lightly terrifying.
Yeah.
Only lightly terrifying.
All right, everybody's looking.
Yeah. And we've got 3 playtest groups starting, and a lot's happening.
Very exciting.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. But I hear enough about my stuff. I hear we have some ghouls to gab.
I wanna open with the one that I'm the only one who's here that's seen. By the way, Nina says hi.
Hi, Nina. Yeah.
Bye, Nina.
Nina and I went to see Skinamarink on Friday.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the more I've sat on it, and the more time I have between actually having seen it, the more I like it.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend I liked it right away.
Sure.
I think, for me, the movie overstayed its welcome a little bit. There were 6 different points where I'm like, that could be the ending. And then it Lord of the Rings its way into continuing.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. It's very much, the gist of the movie is 2 kids wake up in their house and their parents aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Home Alone.
The entire rest of the movie, yes, exactly like Home Alone.
But with 2 kids.
Because they are home and they're alone.
Yeah.
But the entire rest of the movie is really, it's an incredibly experimental piece.
Right, yeah. That's
this
the
is some
impression I
weird
got.
art house nightmare movie. And it does feel like everything that happens in it feels like a nightmare.
Okay. I can get into that.
Yeah. Most of it works for me individually.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just together, it felt a little bloated. However, the creator, firstly, managed to get his movie into an incredibly wide theatrical release, even if it's only one day. He got it all over, which is sick as
Incredible.
hell. More power to him.
And it was like a budget of like only a few $1,000s or something, right?
Honestly, if the budget for this movie was more than like $400, I'd be amazed. It is incredibly crusty.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I can get behind that.
I heard
it's going to be streaming on Shudder soon. So
nice.
I'd recommend everyone check it out because I really do believe that watching it in the theater was nice because I wasn't able to be distracted in a theater.
Right.
I had to be watching the movie. Yeah. But I do sincerely believe this is a headphones laptop movie.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I also heard like in the movie, the only light is from the TV. Is that true?
Pretty much.
Yeah, and it's all like filmed
the
from
primary
the TV's perspective, kind of, or something like that?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. There's a lot of... That might be the short film.
I heard the ring girl comes out of the TV.
Yes. Confirmed. She comes out and says, "Hello, I'm Ring Girl. Oh, ignore that. Let's try this again."
And then she like stands in front of a mirror and says Candyman 5 times, and then Candyman shows up and
and Ring Girl's like, "Yo, Candyman, what's up with this place?" And he's like, "I don't know."
He was Candyman.
He's like, hold up, let me get Bloody Mary in on this. Bloody Mary. And then she comes in.
And she says, "We got to go all the way to the top." They get Freddy Krueger.
She's like, "Let's get Beetlejuice."
But I think it's fun. I think it's neat. I think that it's a cool gimmick to have such a low light movie, weird experimental shit in a fucking Cinemark of all places. Like, that's neat.
Yeah.
Worth checking out. You missed the one-day viewing.
Right, yeah.
Sorry. Definitely check it out on Shudder, though. It's worth watching for the experience. I don't know that I'll watch it again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of cool ideas in it. I love the ideas of this movie.
Okay.
Yeah, Skinamarink.
Cool.
One criticism, I wish it had been subtitled. There are stylized subtitles in the movie. The movie's super low resolution-ish.
Right.
And due to the style of the credits and everything, it's and all the text, it is white that bleeds really bad.
Ooh.
So it's very blurry.
Right.
And there's a few moments where the movie's like, "Oh, you won't understand this. This is a child." But then other moments, it'll be like, "Well, you can clearly understand this." And I'm pretty sure that was the theater had some issues with sound balance because the movie was too loud. It was far too loud.
Unfortunately.
And I think that was the theater's fault because our local theater has a reputation for not balancing its audio well.
Oh, I thought that was just how theaters were.
Nope.
Oh, my bad.
No, that's a lot of theaters are like that, but ours especially does.
Okay.
So there's some moments that were like too loud.
Theaters, apparently.
But yeah, that's my only true functional criticism. The rest of it is, this was fine. I just didn't care for it type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Valid.
I'm excited to find out about it.
Yeah.
I think you will like it.
What would you give it out of 10?
I gave it a 6.
Okay. Cool. What do you think I'll give it?
Great ideas. Fantastic bones. You're going to be like, "There's so much fucking blue light. I can't understand what I'm supposed to learn here."
Fair enough. I'll be confused by that, I'm sure.
But there's another gab that I really want to talk about, and it's the menu. Oh, actually, no. First, Pearl. Seen Pearl.
Oh, yes.
Liked Pearl.
Great movie.
I've been so excited for you and Nina to watch it.
I think I like it more as a character thing.
Absolutely, yes.
Because I like X more.
Fair.
Yeah, that's valid.
But Pearl
X is a
was
self-contained
super
story. Pearl requires you to know who Pearl is already, kind of. So
to get the idea back. Otherwise, I'd go in and be like, "Well, what is this?" It makes me, though, incredibly excited for Maxine.
Yes.
I'm super excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Give me more Mia Goth, please.
I hope we get it this year.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan. 99% sure. I mean, we got 2 movies in 22.
Yeah, it kind of seems like for those two to come out so quickly with
they
each
filmed
other.
those at the same time.
Yeah, like it's a different situation, but it kind of seems like they might kind of want to hurry on it. So it's not like 2 movies 1 year and then you have to wait 3 years for the next one or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I get that. But The Menu.
The Menu.
Yeah.
A movie that I believe I gabbed the ghouls of.
You did.
Months ago.
I believe you did.
Yeah, but it wasn't until...
that is what started gabbing the ghouls.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Was it?
Mm-hmm. It was The Menu and I think a couple other movies I had seen recently.
Yeah, it was like a couple at once. Wow, cool.
Well,
we finally caught
personally
up.
really loved The Menu.
Yeah.
There are a few shots in it that remind me of, there's not all cooking shows.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like this one cooking show on Netflix that I watched with some friends of mine a couple years ago that was 8K shots of food and fires being lit and like really gorgeously balanced stuff. And then it was some, hey, here we are in this small town in China. This is where they make this food. And then it's gorgeous shots of the food. And then it's just shots of the town.
Yeah.
And that's what The Menu is to me, is high price food, Food Network shots.
Yeah, tons of focus on the food shots.
The rest of it is fine and normal, but the food shots are fucking gorgeous.
They're perfectly stylized
really
for
good.
what they're doing.
Yeah. I was really excited for particularly Noah and Nina to watch it because I know you watch a lot of food shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I also watch a lot of food shows, and I was delighted because I had that kind
every
of like
minute
background.
hit for me.
It's so good. I love in the movie for each like course, they like have the fancy shots of the food, and they'll say like what the food is.
Oh yeah, the little title cards and everything
and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like a little title card, and they really kind of like take that and like joke with it as you get further and further into the movie, and it's just so good.
Everything just, it hits really well for me. The movie is primarily about classism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love the moment where it's just like, you do realize that you are in the same position as these people you're criticizing. We aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you are 3 or 4 steps up from where you think you are. You just lost touch with the normal people.
Yeah.
And I loved that part a lot because like the whole thing just clicks in the chef's head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I
just love Ralph Fiennes.
God,
so
I love
good.
him in everything I've ever seen him in. He's so good.
I've never seen that funny little man in anything I don't like. Well, anything I don't like him in.
Right, yeah. He's never the problem.
I love The Menu. I have hated the internet's reaction to The Menu.
Oh, I haven't heard the internet's reaction to The
People
Menu.
don't like it.
Like so there's people that don't like it, but then also there's just so many conversations of back and forth of like, well, what does the menu like mean? Like, what's the deeper message?
It is real clear about that.
Like
I
people
think.
getting into like super deep conversations and arguments about the message of the menu. And I'm like, it's very clear with what it's saying.
It's real plain with it. Yeah.
It's beating you with a bag of bricks. What its
people
point
are like,
is.
it's very much like Inception, and I'm like, it's
What?
not. Like,
What,
shut
in
the
this
fuck
people
up.
act like it's complicated when it's fucking not? Because
Yeah.
like, like yeah, in
very
that regard, they're
straightforward.
similar, sure, but like what?
There have been so many TikToks that are like, let's talk about the ending because this is what it means, and so many of you have been wrong, and I'm like, oh my god, shut up.
No, we don't have
People
to have
are so
conversations
pretentious
about
this movie, and I hate it.
No, that's
which
terrible.
is honestly the thing that's
Terrible.
hilarious about that is this movie's about them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you miss the point?
See,
man?
what I've been seeing, the flavor of discourse that I've been seeing has largely been people saying that it doesn't do its classism messaging as well as it ought to, that it's like not making the points that it thinks it's making or something like that, which I also just don't get that because I felt like it kind of hits everything that it's going for. It just maybe does things in a way that isn't like the presentation maybe isn't for everyone. More so, something like that. I don't know. I know I kind of disliked a handful of things about it at first when I watched it. I posted about it in the Discord, how I was having mixed feelings about it. The more that I have sat with it, I have grown to appreciate it more and more. I don't know still whether I like it per se, but I think it's very, very good.
Yeah.
I am going to watch it again sometime kind of soon because Becca wants to watch it and I'm just going to watch it with her. So we'll see if I like it more that time. But
let us know.
Yeah. Like I again, I don't like hate it or anything. It did a couple of things that I think kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe if I'm more ready for it, I'll like it more. I don't know.
Yeah. Totally valid.
Yeah, I think it's real well done though. It makes all its points very well, very clearly. Curiously enough.
Do we want to start the main segment?
I think we do.
Well, wait, hold on. It's Flanuary, and I'm reading.
Oh, it's Flanuary.
Yeah, since I can read now.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Reading the book The Haunting of Hill House, upon which the Mike Flanagan series The Haunting of Hill House is based.
No shit.
I'm really enjoying it so far. So it's written by Shirley Jackson, who I do not have a lot of knowledge of her work, but I know she's kind of well regarded and stuff.
Yeah.
I am really, really enjoying this book so far. I am only a few chapters in still because the chapters are rather long and I read very slowly.
Yeah.
But I am really, really liking all the particular like flavor of like description that is used in it is really, really good. One thing that I wasn't expecting though, this is a detail about the story, but it's not really a spoiler. The way that in the Mike Flanagan series, the main characters are all like a family. That's not in the book. They are an unrelated group of people who go to the house to like be ghost hunters kind of in the book.
Nice. I know like the actual show is based on a few different books.
Yeah. Kind of like how The Haunting of Bly Manor is like kind of Turn of the Screw, but it's also kind of other stuff.
Yeah. But I love ghost hunters kind of stepping in their own shit.
It's a cool premise.
It's fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying all the characters that I've encountered thus far in the book. And again, just all the descriptions. Like for me, when I'm reading something, I pay a lot of attention to the specific way that an author will describe certain things. It's one of the things that I love about, that I used to love about writers like Owen Colfer or maybe even a J.R.R. Tolkien every now and then, not to the point of being able to read an entire one of his books, unfortunately, but it's one of the things that draws me back to like H.P. Lovecraft all the time, despite all of his self-evident flaws. I just love the way that he describes things. And I'm finding that with Shirley Jackson as well. Just the way that she chooses to describe her locations and characters and shit. I love it.
Yeah.
You feel like you know the main character very intimately, very quickly in the book. And the way that it describes the impressions that she gets of everything that she encounters is just so, I don't know, it's really good. I'm trying to find a more specific way to describe it, but it's good. I recommend reading it, more or less. Yeah, really enjoying it. We'll update further as I get further into the book.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of books, just quick announcement. If you recall our April Fool's episode last year, we did a switcheroo and we turned into a horror novel podcast.
Right.
That was a really fun time. We all enjoyed it. And we're going to do it again. And this year we are going to be reading Summer Suns by Lee Mandello. It's a queer gothic horror novel with ghosts. It's a story about Eddie and Andrew, two friends who used to do everything together, but then Eddie goes off to graduate school at Vanderbilt, and then 6 months later he dies by presumed unaliving himself. But Andrew isn't so sure, and as he searches for the truth behind his friend's tragic death, Andrew will uncover secrets about Eddie he never would have suspected. and there's something lurking in the shadows, a phantom that hungers for Andrew. Nina has heard a lot of good things about this book. It was on our potential list of books last year, so we decided to bring it back and give it a try for this year. So if you want to read along and kind of know what we're talking about for that podcast, then be sure to pick it up and give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited to read again. I just bought 2 giant books, but I'm going to read that one too.
What are the giant books?
So I picked up, there's a local Black-owned bookstore right by my house that I keep meaning, I've always meant to go into.
Cool.
And I was waiting for some food to be finished up. So I was like, while I'm waiting, I'll go into this bookstore.
Yeah.
They had 2 books that I'd been wanting to get. One of them is Gideon the Ninth, which is a very gay, it's very popular among the queers.
Uh-huh.
It's a very gay kind of necromancy book. And the other one is The Priory of the Orange Tree.
Yo, Becca has that.
Yeah, I've heard fantastic things. It's thick as fuck.
It is, yes.
Like, both of them are thick books.
Yeah, it's like a dictionary-sized book.
Reference,
it's very large.
It's giant. And this one was cheaper than this one.
Oh.
Nice.
Which is a fun little twist. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies, and sometimes we keep the dicks coming, but not this time.
Not this
time, it is Flanuary,
Woo.
the 2 months of the year where we get to watch Mike Flanagan movies because we love that boy, and talk about our boy Mike Flanagan's movies.
That's right.
Today, we're
Happy
talking
Flanuary.
about... Happy Flanuary, everyone,
It is
to you
Flanuary
and
indeed.
your family. Yes. Today, we're going to be talking about Oculus, which is a horror movie that came out in 2013. I am Emma, also known as Emma Panada, and with me today are Noah.
Hello.
Jeff.
Howdy.
And not Nina. Nina's sick.
R.I.P.
Rip.
R.I.P. Rip in peace. They were very excited to talk about this movie. Unfortunately, they drank too much last night while they were all partying.
Oh, when you said sick, I thought we were avoiding saying that part.
Oh.
Yeah, Nina's hungover.
No, joke's on you.
Yeah, suck an egg, Nina. Hungover. Get dunked on.
Get dunked on. But Oculus, very easy to kind of give you a brief spoiler-free description of what Oculus is. In Oculus, there's a haunted mirror that kind of...
No, that's it. There we go.
That's the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. There's a haunted mirror that has existed for a couple hundred years, and whoever owns the mirror, the people inside of their homes eventually lose their minds a bit and start killing people or harming themselves, and then they die. This brother and sister kind of... their dad got the mirror in their childhood home, and then stuff went down with their mom and dad, and their parents died, and then now they're adults and they have located the mirror again, and the sister invites the brother to their old home for a night, where they can finally destroy this mirror and end the curse and prove that it was truly a haunted thing. So they meet up, they start kind of trying to do stuff to the mirror, and bad stuff starts happening. And that's pretty much the gist of the movie. It's a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Noah, how did everybody else enjoy it?
Everyone else seems to be a little bit mid on this movie. If we're being honest, these ratings are better than I expected. IMDb
Interesting.
with a 6.5, Rotten Tomatoes with a 75%, which is kind of nice. Metacritic with a 61, and Letterboxd with a 3.2 out of 5, or a 64.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Mhm.
Yeah. what did you all think?
I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it the first time when Jeff showed it to me because they knew that I hated mirrors and were like, ha ha ha, a movie that will scare Noah specifically.
Well, that was years ago.
Here's a little like fun encapsulated memory from that night. We watched the movie. It freaked me out because I was very afraid of mirrors. And then
Previously,
I walked into the dining room.
You were afraid of mirrors?
Yes,
it's been a long-standing thing.
It's a long-standing thing.
Nice.
I have a gigantic full-body mirror right next to me right now. Doesn't bug me, but I will not come into this room at night without turning a light on.
Reflective shit is so much scarier in the dark.
Yeah.
I have a thing because I was afraid of mirrors in the dark, but not like normally as a kid.
Yeah, normal mirrors I'm fine with.
Because one night, very late at night after like church, me and my brothers were hanging outside of the church in this small German village. And they were talking about Bloody Mary, and I was like 10 and it freaked me the fuck out. And so ever since then, and I still do this today, normally I've grown to the point where I don't have to have the bathroom door closed at all times. Most of my life, I've had to have the bathroom door closed and my room door closed. Or else it wasn't a rational fear, but my brain was like, Bloody Mary's going to come out of the bathroom and come into your room and get you.
Right.
And that's just kind of
I get it
100%.
Yeah. All doors to my room still have to be closed. I cannot sleep with one of them open, but the bathroom door can be open. That's fine.
I feel that. The staircase to the attic was in my childhood bedroom, and I never liked that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
There's something disconcerting about a bedroom that just has too many doors leading off of it.
Oh, but for this movie, as soon as the movie ended, I walked into the dining room, and my parents have big bay windows in that room, and it was dark, and it was just reflective enough with the light from the living room that I could see my reflection in those, but also see that there was a lot behind it. Freaked me out. But it cemented this movie as a big, like, ooh, that was a good movie for me. Which I'm glad to say, on second viewing, it held up. This is not a 10-star Noah moment. The 8 stars I gave it before, maintained today.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, so you're still an 8?
Yep, I'm sticking with an 8. I think there's things that could be done better. I think there's a couple of clumsy moments in this, but also, like, it's fun. And there's a few notes that I'm going to steal from Nina and make it seem like I came up with the ideas by myself.
We can edit out that part.
Sure.
Yeah. Just so you can pass them off as your own.
Yeah, I'll definitely be editing that out.
Well, thank you. How about you, Jeff? What did you think of this movie?
So, I always forget how recent this movie was at the time when I watched it for the first time, because it was like 2014, 2015.
Honestly, I was putting that timeline together.
Yeah, it was also pretty damn
embarrassingly
new.
recent for me to be that afraid of mirrors.
I mean, yeah, whatever.
But yeah, we watched it within like a year of it coming out.
Yeah, it was on Netflix at the time, so I watched it and I was like, yo, this is good. I think it holds up better than I kind of expected it to. We're at a point now where I've watched it like a bunch of times, but this was kind of the first time that I watched it with a critical eye, like looking for things to actually pull apart and stuff like that. So I was really worried going into it that I just like wouldn't have anything to talk about here.
Right.
Because I've never watched this movie in a way that like I was trying to have thoughts about it.
You never thought about it before. Yeah.
Also, it's 10 years old this year, which I find very, kind of fun, because it's kind of like, we're sort of taking like a 10-year retrospective on Mike Flanagan's career so far. And that's very cool. Yeah. That's very fun. I do think this movie is good. It does show kind of how much he's improved in the time since then, though.
That's something that Nina wanted to say as well.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a single monologue.
There were not really so many monologues in this one. No monologues
how
about
am I supposed to know how important family is if there's not a monologue?
I mean,
you know what there was though? an implied affair.
There
Yeah.
was.
Thanks, Flanagan. Your work
shiny
keeps
eyes.
And
consistent.
fucked up hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I had forgotten about the fucked up hand.
Yeah. I forget about it every time, and then it starts happening, and every time, like, I have to, like, I literally can't watch certain shots of this movie. I was, like, just not looking for some parts of it, which is not
What's
super
fantastic
common.
is Nina was not looking, and I saw the scene starting. I'm like, and I like tapped her, and I'm like, hey, you got to watch this. And the fucked up hand happened.
Oh, yeah, and she's probably just like, why would you make me look at that?
I was like, it's
You
important.
got to get the experience, you know?
It's a Flanagan. You got to have the
It's
fucked
a
up hand.
Flanagan. It's a fucked up hand
It's
again.
important.
So I think I'm gonna give this like a 7.5.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Nice.
Because
Yeah.
I definitely like it. I think it's got good stuff going on. I think it needed a little more polishing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, given how early in his career it was at the time, I don't really think we can begrudge him that all that much necessarily.
I have a lot of things that I'm excited to say about this movie when we get a little bit further into it.
Yeah.
On that note.
Yeah, once we get more into it, there's a bit to talk about. What about you, Emma?
Yeah.
I enjoyed this movie. This was my first watch of the movie.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I had a fun time. And I'd probably give it, I think I'm around Noah. I think I'm like a 8.2 even potentially.
Yeah.
Mirrors are creepy.
Yes.
And I don't know.
Mirror gang.
Are there any other like horror movies that centered around mirrors that are as kind of iconic as this one?
I haven't
As iconic as
seen
this-
one that
I honestly-
plays it the way this one does.
I hate to say it. I don't even know that this movie's as iconic as I think it is. I feel like a lot of people don't think about it that much anymore.
But of like the mirror horror genre.
Right.
I don't think that it's that. I don't think that there's that many.
I can't think of any other haunted mirror movies personally.
I feel like there should be more.
I feel like there are a number of them. There have to be, but I don't know any of them.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the primal fears. I feel like that needs to be explored more often.
Honestly, right?
Yeah. But
we get a lot of fear of the dark. We don't, which is something that, to loop it back around to the Gabs, Skinamarink really does nail that fear of the dark thing going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's big vibes.
Nice.
But like there's not a lot of other like, dare I say, gimmick based fears like heights.
Yeah.
We see a lot of ocean. We see a lot of mirrors. Maybe just not as many people are afraid of mirrors as I think there should be. But I don't know. We don't get it as much as we should.
Yeah. I feel like it's a pretty common fear because like anytime I bring it up, people are like, oh yeah.
Right. It's one of those things that like when
knows?
you talk about it, people get it, but you just don't see it all that much.
Yeah. I would love if you all are down to talk about some fun facts about Oculus.
100%.
Actually, I'm getting a call in and someone's saying, but Noah, what did Twitter Brandon think of this movie?
What did Twitter
Oh my
Brandon
gosh,
think of
you're
this
right.
movie?
Thank you, caller.
And I, unfortunately for our caller, Twitter Brandon has not seen this movie.
Oh.
However, in searching for this, I did find that he really liked Haunting of Bly Manor and very much connected with its themes.
Oh, okay.
I'm sharing this just to prove that Twitter Brandon has a soul and can be trusted for some things.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Bly Manor, great show.
It is.
Mhm.
It is.
Big fan. So fun
Just got
facts.
it on Blu-ray. Very excited to watch it again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's hear
facts.
those facts.
Fun facts about Oculus. Apparently, a number of studios wanted him to make it as a found footage movie.
Oh, I'm so glad he didn't
as early
do
as
that.
2006.
Oh.
Okay.
Whoa.
This plays into something I want to say too.
Oh.
I'm going to bounce off this real quick. This movie felt older than 2013.
Yeah.
Watching this movie, it felt like the pinnacle of the aughts.
Yeah.
And knowing that people were trying to get him to make this movie in a in the gimmick style of the aughts makes so much sense.
I was going to compare this movie to a handful of other stories later on in the episode when we're in the spoiler zone, but I can totally see how it could have been more like a Paranormal Activity or something if it had just been executed differently.
2006, that's the height of Blair Witch.
Another fun fact.
The movie that came out in 1998, 2006 was the height of that? Hold on.
Oh, wait, no. What was the 2004 Blair Witch is what I'm thinking of. My bad.
Okay. Gotcha.
Another fun fact, this was actually filmed in 2012.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But then it didn't premiere until September 2013 at the Toronto Film Festival.
Yeah, that happens.
And then wasn't released until April 2014.
Oh, so that means
Jeff,
when I watched
it, like, when it
that
dropped.
means when I saw it, it was like right when it hit Netflix, probably. Jeez. I was on top of this shit. I didn't even know who Mike Flanagan was.
Yeah.
Cutting edge fan over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between this and Hush.
Another big one, obviously, is Mike Flanagan kind of hides the Oculus mirror in all of his other movies and shows.
I'm learning that. I really am excited to look and try and find it on my new rewatch of Bly and Hill House.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to spot in Gerald's game. It's very in the background in Bly Manor, though.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mike Flanagan really wanted Karen Gillan to play Kaylee, who's the main character, because he really liked her in Doctor Who.
Understandable. She was really good in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I like her.
And this was her first American role.
Wow.
Nina voice. I guess that makes sense, but couldn't she have done a little more work to hide her Scottish accent?
She did okay. You can tell she didn't.
Tell that to Nina 4 days ago.
You can really spot that she didn't have a specific flavor of American accent to shoot for, which I think is the thing that throws off an awful lot of people's accent work, is they don't pick a specific accent to land on. They just try to cover up their existing one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mike Flanagan directed a short film, Oculus Chapter 3, The Man with the Plan, which is what this movie is based on.
Oh.
And that came out in 2006, which is probably when studios were like, hey, you should do this as a...
Right. Do this in a format that's very, very cheap for us to fund you.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like, though, how he keeps a nod to that idea in with how many cameras are up, and you see a lot of found footage elements. In the movie.
He makes it kind of a plot point.
Yeah. And then there's a Bollywood remake of the film. Called Dobara, See Your Evil.
I've heard that title. Hold on.
Dobara, See Your Evil came out in 2017.
That's a remake of Oculus?
Yeah.
I have thought about watching this so many times.
Forget the plan for what we were going to cover next. We're doing that.
Okay, so the review for this, it ass garbage. People do not like this movie.
Damn, okay.
And the last fun fact is Stephen King loved the movie.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, because Nina voice, I see a lot of Stephen King in this movie.
Thank you, Nina.
We'll get into that later.
Thank you, Nina. Hi, Nina. And that's the end of the fun fact section.
Okay, wow.
Next up,
those were good facts.
Yeah, those were fun. Thank you, IMDb trivia section. Next up, trigger warnings. What do we need to warn people about?
Fingernails.
A few good ones.
We got
here.
fingernails.
We got fucked up hand.
Fucked up hand stuff.
We got broken teeth.
Specifically in the fingernail. Yikes. Broken teeth. That's fun.
Yeah.
We got some domestic violence.
We do. We got some domestic violence. It's very violent.
Discussions of suicides that aren't actually suicides, but are historically seen as suicides.
Mm-hmm.
The imagery is still there.
Animal death.
Oh yeah, we got some animal death.
I would say mental health in general, because there's a lot of frank mental health conversations.
Yeah.
We open mostly we open in an asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have gaslighting.
Because it's worth mentioning, yeah.
Yeah, because it's technically not gaslighting because technically what she's saying is true.
But the way she's saying it is just, oh, you listened to those stupid doctors, didn't you? When you should have been listening to me. Yeah.
Juggalo voice. You listen to the scientists.
Magnets.
How do they work?
Nobody knows.
I'm not going to listen.
Is that all our trigger warnings?
I think
that's pretty much all I've got.
Feels like it's everything.
0 monologues. That's
no monologues, no dong.
For fans of Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
No monologues, which is ridiculous. Mike, what were you thinking?
I mean, it's his early work. He hadn't really come into his own yet, commercially or artistically. Do you like Huey Lewis in the news? So I think that's kind of what that is.
Cool.
How scary, though, Emma? How scary do you think this movie was?
Great question. Thank you. If you're not a fan of hand stuff or mirrors,
right?
The hand stuff is definitely uncomfortable, but it's easy to look away.
It is.
And just like avoid the hand stuff.
You cannot just look away from the mirror stuff.
Yeah, the mirror stuff's kind of all over.
It's too important.
But the mirror stuff's not too bad. So I'm gonna give it like we'll say a 4 if you don't like hand stuff, and a 2.5 for everybody else.
On a content warning front, something Nina mentioned, just in general, I don't think that this is necessarily a full-blown content warning, but just as a thing I think that would come up, is this movie, for Nina specifically, was a really great depiction of having memory issues.
Yeah.
Because there's a few points where the movie plays out and then we re-enter an area and things aren't correct.
Yeah, and they're just
and
like,
when
I don't
rewatch
remember
the
that.
tapes,
yeah,
it's like, hey, this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
It's played really, really well as
gaslighting
well.
them a lot.
But
it's played super well, and Nina was like, this is what it feels like to have memory issues.
Yeah, we can get more into that in the spoiler zone, but...
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's hop on over to the spoiler zone. Before I do this big monologue, I'm going to take a drink of this Dr. Pepper.
Not Spawn.
I wish we were Spawn. Okay. So,
Dr. Pepper, reach out to us.
Mike Flanagan, sponsor us and we'll do more monologues.
Yeah. All right.
Dr.
So this film,
Dr.
Peppagan.
Peppagan.
This movie takes place between 2 different timelines that kind of converge on each other a little bit towards the end. So there's the 2002 timeline and there's the 2013 timeline. And one of them, the brother and sister are kids and kind of experiencing what happened with their mom and dad. And the other one, they're adults trying to destroy the mirror. So when they're kids, their dad, Alan, and their family, and their mom, Marie, kind of moved in to this new house. The mom, Marie, had talked to her husband about wanting to get some antique pieces of furniture just to kind of class up the place so it's not all IKEA. And so the dad purchases an antique mirror to decorate his office. And as
antique
they
desk
kind of,
is well, I got the idea that he decked out his entire personal office in like expensive antique furniture.
Yeah, and then everywhere else was IKEA.
That one.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna kind of describe the 2002 kind of timeline a little bit, and then jump into the modern timeline. So
I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So, they get this mirror, move in, and then the daughter sees this woman in the office with her dad, who is not her mom, and they're kind of doing some stuff in the office. And she's like, at dinner, she was like, "Who is that woman in your office?" And the wife's like, "What are you talking about?" And the dad's like, "There wasn't a woman in my office. Don't worry about it."
He plays it the sketchiest that he possibly could.
Absolutely, he does. Yeah. And So then it turns into the wife kind of thinking something's going on with the husband and being really paranoid. And then the husband kind of falls deeper and deeper into the mirror's embrace, I guess you could say. He starts kind of like picking at his fingernails a lot and like removing his fingernails and keeping them in a drawer, which is real gross.
And he does this with like a fucking staple remover.
Yeah. And he very much kind of like isolates himself in his office. He doesn't let anybody else in the office. All the plants in the house die. The family dog disappears after being kind of put into the office because it was barking a lot, trying to get in there. And yeah, so things are not very Gucci in the house. One night, Marie kind of like fully loses it and tries to kill her kids. But then the dad gets home, stops her, and locks her in their bedroom. Later on, it's kind of the kids start worrying about the mom. The dad's like, don't worry about it. And then doesn't let like the kids leave the house and like grounds them. The daughter tries to get help from a neighbor, but the neighbor is like golf buddies with the dad. And so the dad's able to just kind of talk him off. And then you see as he's like talking to him, he has his hand on like the wall by the front door. And then you get a shot from the kid's perspective as he's talking to this like neighbor totally normally. And you just see he has like no fingernails and there's like blood all over the wall. And then the kids find that the mom is chained up in their room and things come to a head and some craziness happens. The son ends up shooting the dad and then gets sent to a psychiatric hospital for multiple years. And the daughter is taken somewhere else that were never really shown.
Foster care, she says at one point, I think.
Okay. So in 2013, the son, Tim, is finally discharged from the psychiatric hospital. He's come to the belief that there was nothing supernatural going on. It was all just kind of a mental breakdown from his parents. And on the other hand, her entire adult life, Kaylee, the daughter, has been hunting for the mirror so that they can kind of destroy it. Because as the son was being taken, they made a promise that they would like get together again and destroy the mirror. So the two meet up now that Tim is out of the hospital, and Kaylee's like, "Hey, I found the mirror. I have it at our old house. I have everything set up. We're gonna destroy this fucker." And so the son's like, or Tim is like, "It's not a supernatural thing. Our parents were just sick." But then she takes him to the home and starts kind of proving that things are off about the mirror. And as the night goes on, he starts to kind of be recognized like, yes, this actually is a supernatural thing. Basically, the night continues of things keep happening that are odd. They keep seeing things that aren't there. They'll look back and see that like they have various cameras around and they'll see that on the cameras it shows them doing stuff that they definitely didn't do. And there's just a whole lot of stuff. They also have this big kind of like guillotine aimed at the mirror that is connected to a timer. And if they don't like reset the timer, the guillotine will like go and destroy the mirror. And they keep resetting the timer throughout the night. And then the end of the movie, they all have like kind of flashbacks to their childhood and the trauma that they were like experiencing and kind of the specific night of when Tim shot their dad and just the reasons for that happening. And they start freaking out, and Kaylee is kind of having experience where she sees like her mom, and it's this really pretty moment of reconciliation between her and her mom, and they're like seeing each other through the mirror and talking, and then Tim sets off the thing to destroy the mirror because he's finally getting a sense of semi lucidity. But then we find out that the mirror had tricked Kaylee into standing in front of it to stop the guillotine. And so Kaylee gets completely like fucked by this guillotine and dies. And then they had tried calling the police earlier in the night. And they thought that it was the mirror was fucking with them and they didn't actually get through to the police. But we find out that the police do come. They find Kaylee dead. They arrest the brother. And then the movie ends.
Yep.
I love a good movie with a not happy ending sometimes. It's been a while since I've seen one.
Yeah.
It was so tragic how this happened.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the ending. Personally.
Yeah,
but
I think it's good.
Me too.
What did you all think?
I also enjoyed the ending. I think a lot of stuff in this movie really, really just works.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a moment early on where we're just getting a lore dump about the mirror, and it's unintentionally hilarious.
A touch, but I do actually like that scene though. Like it is 100%
it really
just
does work for me.
Big ass exposition dump, but I really don't mind it.
Same. It's just running through all the former victims of the mirror.
Yeah.
And we get, oh God, Emma, what was that line that you sent to the chat?
Her right arm was completely untouched because she needed it to wield a hammer.
For the hammer.
God, I love that.
The pause is so perfect.
Yeah, it was like her talking about how this woman like killed herself by bludgeoning herself with a hammer.
Yeah.
She's like, except for her right arm.
Yeah, she like started by smashing all the bones in her
wield
legs
the
and then
hammer.
her other arm and then her ribs. And she says that like when they found her, she had just started working on her skull. Oh.
Yeah.
It's really great. And one of the things I really like about it is we get a nice lore dump, but it's done in a really straightforward manner with Kaylee just being like, here's how it is, and Tim being like, no, it's not actually. But it gets better and better the more so-called coincidences she lays out of this person died and owned the mirror, and he's like, yeah, man, our uncle died after we bought a couch. That's not the same thing. And then she's like, okay, but here's 8 other people that did the same thing.
And
he's like,
story about this guy.
I returned to the couch analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's just like, well, here's the story of this guy who was shouting and ranting about how it needed to be destroyed and then didn't. And then he walked into traffic. Can we explain that somehow? The stories are all so fucked up. Holy shit.
Yeah. It reminds me because with The Haunting of Hill House, Mike Flanagan had a Bible where each ghost had like a full ass story. And the original plan was to show that more like in the show, but all those scenes kind of got axed. But he still has a full Bible talking about like all of these ghosts and like what was up with like the dogs barking and the story of all this stuff. Similarly in Hush, another movie he directed, like the kind of killer there has a fully fleshed backstory that they've never revealed. And he's like, nah, I think it's more fun just to not reveal that.
Yeah.
And there's like all these stories and stuff about him. And it gives me the vibes that like similarly, all of these people have very fleshed out stories as well.
Yeah.
That good old Mike Flanagan won't tell us.
Yeah, Mike loves making things
really
with a tremendous amount of depth.
Yeah, he do that. Apparently, because when you look up like Oculus, like Mike Flanagan is the director, but also he's credited as Blinking Man.
Yeah, he's like one of the ghosts.
Yeah. I didn't catch which one he was.
I didn't see
Was that
him.
Mike or was that his brother? I saw that his brother was credited in this as well.
At some point or another. Also, Kate Siegel is Marisol, the like she's kind of like the lead ghost, although like none of them are the lead ghost, but she's the main one that we see.
She's the face ghost.
Yeah.
The ghost who's not connected to any of the deaths that are in the timeline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The ghost that you can assume was the originator.
I don't know about originator.
The originator coming to Netflix.
I mean, Kaylee says pretty explicitly the origin of the glass itself isn't known. And then Marisol was just one of the victims. She hit kind of like further along in the history of the glass.
Oh, was she mentioned in the history? I didn't remember her being in the history of the glass.
She died from miscarriage complications or something.
Oh,
and then they found all of her teeth in her nightstand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. More teeth
this
stuff.
Is
teeth stuff.
Also, on a fun fact front, this is where Flanagan met Kate Siegel.
Siegel,
Nice.
Not Siegel. It's spelled with A.
Whatever.
Not
Kate
like Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Kate Siegel.
This is where they met each other.
Where he met her.
Wow.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And she's been in every one of his movies since.
Yeah, everything except Dr. Sleep, more or less.
Yeah. I saw her in like background shots of that, and I'm like, oh, she's not in this movie. What the fuck?
Yeah, she was like heavily pregnant while they were filming. So she couldn't I think she was able to travel and see like the set and everything at the very beginning.
But not be like involved.
But then she couldn't travel anymore.
Yeah. I like her in all of his stuff.
She's so good.
He has good reason to continuously be putting her in everything.
Yeah. She's also from Silver Spring, which is right by me.
Oh. Look at that.
Yeah. Fun story.
Nice.
So Kate, if you're listening, you want to give me any recs for Silver Spring? What's good? Let's see. What are my other thoughts? I know you all didn't like Karen Gillan's accent.
I didn't care about it.
I think she did
fine with it.
Okay, good enough.
It didn't pull me out of the movie at all.
Yeah, she's not Carrie Elwes, so.
I said this in our like little group chat, but Karen Gillan and her brother in this movie look nothing alike. And I was like, you want me to believe that these two are brother and sister?
Yeah, they are not consistently, or not consistently, what am I saying? They are not believably siblings any more than they are believably their parents' children in this one. But
yeah.
I mean, whatever. It's,
It's a movie.
If that's the price we pay to have both Karen Gillan and Katie Sackhoff in this one, I'm willing to pay it because I like both of them enough that I'm willing to put up with that. I think they're both very good in this also for the most part. Because I was actually a little bit hot and cold on Karen Gillan's performance in this one, this most recent watch, because there's like a handful of scenes where it kind of seems like her delivery is a little like her acting is just a little bit wooden, like she's just phoning it in a little bit. But then I kind of looked at it a little bit differently, and I don't think that's quite what was going on. I feel like she's good for most, if not all of this, but I don't know. This may be a little bit early to hit this in the episode. Can I talk about my theory of something that's happening in this movie that's not explicitly stated?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so this is going to be some like following the color of the lighting level stuff, perhaps. But okay, so when we see there are a number of shots in this movie because it's centered around a mirror, right? There's a number of shots in this movie where we have a character standing facing the mirror, and we're just looking at like their back and then the reflection of their face.
Yeah.
I think every time that we see a shot like that, that is a visual indication of the mirror's influence taking hold over them.
Oh, interesting.
Because we get that with like every time that it happens, there's this like, it's not a music sting exactly, but there is like a subtle sound effect that plays when we see that stuff. And sometimes you see a little facial change on the character a little bit or something like that. And we see this from both of the parents, the people that we know for sure to have been under the influence of the mirror, right? And in the scene toward the beginning where Tim is like, well, why not just smash the mirror? And Kaylee's like, yeah, okay, go ahead. And he picks up the chair and he walks over, he pulls the sheet off, and then we get that mirror shot. We're looking at the back of his head and the reflection of his face in the mirror. There's a little sound, and he puts the chair down and he starts talking about how it would be stupid to smash the mirror because it was making him stop. When in the scene where Kaylee is like, it's after the auction, she's in the warehouse picking up the mirror so that she can take it to the house, and it's under the guise of taking it for repairs. She pulls the cloth off of it and she looks closely at the crack that's down in the corner of it. And we get that shot where we're looking at the back of her head and the reflection of her face. And I think...
And then we see like the thing in the background.
Yeah, and then we get the whole thing with like the statues under the sheets behind her and all that stuff. Okay, I think what is happening in this movie for its entire runtime, I think Kaylee's entire plan to acquire the mirror upon getting the ability to, and to smash it, and to do the whole like scientifically proving that it's haunted thing, all of this, I think all of that is the result of the mirror's influence pushing her to do that, because that's the way that it has chosen to feed on her. Because we see through all of its other victims that it doesn't just kill them, it torments them. It makes them torment themselves first. And I think it just happens that the way it chose to do that with her was emotionally and psychologically rather than physically, like it did with previous victims. And that from like the beginning of this movie all the way to the end, like everything about her plan and the way that she executes it is 100% just because she is under the influence of the mirror and it's pushing her in those directions.
I'm very much with you on that, because one of the things that I really enjoyed was like, you know, you watch it and it's like she set the whole thing up and then left the mirror covered so it didn't have as much power against her. It was set up in the corner, ready to go. And then like, that's it. She's not going to like, all she had to do was set up the kill switch with the mirror covered and walk away. But instead, she had to prove it was haunted. So she fed it so much energy that it totally ran her life. And I think that lends a lot of credence to your theory there, because she was so set on proving it was haunted instead of just breaking it. When she already had her paper trail.
That's the thing. She already had all this anecdotal shit from previous owners. She didn't need to go proving on camera necessarily. And also, there's like 3 different scenes where the timer is about to run down.
And she just absentmindedly cranks it up again.
Goes and cranks it back up. Yeah, she could just let the thing kill the mirror, because at that point, it's like already been fucking with them. They know that it's doing things to them. They know that it's causing all of its harm, and yet they are driven to continue prolonging its existence. There's no logical reason for the two of them to actually want to do that. I think it's just because the mirror's making them do it.
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. Because there's that question of like, why do they keep resetting the timer?
Why would they keep resetting the timer? Like, yeah, exactly.
Like, especially so casually. The movie makes you think like, oh, it's their plan all along to just like keep going until they have like some real good evidence or something.
But then like...
But they never really talk about that. But that's the sense you get because they keep very casually resetting the timer.
Yeah.
But... no, it's the mirror fucking with them.
Yeah, they have their proof. They keep acting as though there's some sort of like final end result that they have to reach, but there's not, and there's never one specified early on. It's just, we should prove it. The moment it has them do something and they don't realize they're doing it until afterward, and then they walk back in and the whole room's rearranged and the plants are dead, that's the proof. Boom, killed the thing, you're done. Go home. Like, that should have been the end of it.
Like, they still have videos of the plants dying.
Yeah,
that's enough.
Exactly.
Right there, that's enough.
Yeah.
I do want to call out very smart move by Kaylee, where later in the movie she's kind of experiencing these hallucinations, and she uses her camera on her phone to be able to see like what's actually real.
That's kind of neat.
And that was It was really, really cool. And it leads to the good moment later of she thinks she kills her partner.
Yeah.
But then she's like, no, it was just an illusion. And then she like sees his dead body on the camera. She's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. That's good.
Mm-hmm. But also, why'd he come over? What was he doing?
What was he doing there? Okay, so another small theory
so
that
I
have
actually
there?
Oh, is it that he wasn't there? Because that's my theory.
Okay.
Is
I
it
thought
the mirror
actually-
was like deluding her to think the camera was working?
Yeah, the mirror
and
was
then-
making her think that the camera trick would
Because
actually
later-
work when it doesn't.
Later, we see the camera trick doesn't work in the mirror room. And right outside the mirror room is where she thinks she kills her boyfriend. I think that there's a non-zero chance that he didn't actually
Do
die.
the cops at the end mention a specific body count?
I don't remember,
Okay.
and
Because
that's
that
why
would be,
I don't think it
that
happened.
would be the reveal there, right? Okay, my thought was if the mirror fucks with phone calls on your end, who's to say that it's not fucking with phone calls on the other end as well? Maybe when she was receiving those phone calls from the boyfriend, she was receiving real phone calls from him, but what she was speaking to was not him. And what he was speaking to was not her. And it like used her voice because it has her under its influence. It like used her voice to say something to him that would make him come and check on them. So it would have another life force to feed off of.
Could be. Yeah.
It's possible.
Speaking of the mirror feeding off of life forces, I don't know if the two of you caught this, but have you noticed that like the glass, the mirror itself gets like cloudier when it's less powerful and it gets clearer as it feeds? Because in all the flashbacks,
I didn't notice that.
in all the flashbacks, as it shows it like feeding off of the parents and, you know, killing the plants and the dog and whatnot, it's like perfectly clear. But then in the scene that I tagged earlier where Kaylee is in the warehouse picking it up to take it to the house, it's incredibly clouded. When we get that first like mirror face shot of her, the glass itself is very clouded. And I was kind of trying to figure out what, you know, maybe metaphorically or symbolically might be intended by that, other than that, like, you know, the things that are normally implied when a person's face is obscured, you know, lying, deception, just something that's being hidden, that kind of stuff. But that was kind of what triggered me to start thinking that those shots were indicating the mirror's influence. But then, like, yeah, as the movie wears forward a bit and it absorbs more life force from the plants, the dog, from them, it starts to look clearer. You see the reflections in it a lot more easily. I thought that was a really neat, really interesting visual touch.
Yeah, that is really cool. I'm so bad at noticing details, but
That's why I have a Jeff. I'm just like,
yeah.
wow, this movie was really fun and surface level. And then Jeff kicks down the door going, did you see the lights?
Both of you are especially good with music too, which I really appreciate because, like, Jeff, you said there was like a sound cue. And I was like, I didn't fucking notice a sound cue.
I've got specific things that I'm always trying to look very closely at, and I miss a lot of other, like, larger overarching themes that should be very obvious to me. So, like, you know, that's just a part of...
I just wish that they had explained what's up with the mirror.
Why is the mirror evil? She just says the origins are unknown. Why is it haunted? I don't get it.
Meanwhile, we're like, haunted mirror. Yeah, that's evil. Moving
Yeah, that
on.
tracks. Average Stephen King premise. We got an object here. You're never going to guess. It's evil.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Actually, do you want to bring up any of your other, like, Stephen King
Totally, yeah. Okay,
comparison
so there's aspects of...
Because we do have an evil mirror.
Yeah, well, we've got an evil mirror. Okay, but, like, to look at it in the scope of, like, specific stories to compare it to, this has a little bit of The Shining in it, and it also has a good bit of It in it. Because we've kind of got from It, we've got the, like, parallel storylines of them going through something as children and then having to come back and finish the job as adults. And we are told both of those stories simultaneously by alternating between the two. So one kind of reveals the other as you go forward. Very, very similar to It, the way that it's written. Then we've also got like some Shining stuff where we've got, like, you know, evil object or location influencing the parents, except this is kind of putting a twist on it where it's kind of like, what if Wendy went evil as well?
Yeah.
Rather than it being like one parent versus the other parent and the child, it's kind of both parents against one another and then separately against the children as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a neat combination of a set of distinctly Stephen King feeling themes.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
And just the way that the mirror taking influence over people is shown feels kind of like the Overlook in The Shining to me. You know, where it kind of feels like it's just pouring malice into these people's minds and they have to find some kind of an outlet for it. And that's why they end up turning toward things like, you know, this extreme, absurd amount of self-harm that they're doing and such. And then, like, trying to kill their children, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how this movie really fucks with your perception as a viewer as well.
Yes, it does it really well, right?
Yeah. Specifically with the ending, because in the end, the two timelines kind of converge. And the adults are kind of re-experiencing their childhood as they're trying to like get through their illusions and make it out to the other side. And you start kind of, it's hard to explain, but you start having these scenes where like, oh, somehow Tim or Kaylee are able to like get through to the ghosts of their parents in the mirror, and they're having like a human moment and like they're reconciling, and like it's very kind of, it leads you into feeling safe, because there are a lot of horror movies that kind of do that in the third act of like there's some like redemption or like some sort of thing. And so you start thinking like, okay,
things
like,
are looking up now.
They're reconciling. Yeah, things are looking up. Tim reconciled with Dad, and now has broken through the illusion, and now they'll be able to like stop the mirror. And then it's all a fucking trick.
I especially like how there's so many scenes where like it appears to just be an ordinary flashback, but then you find out it's actually a flashback that the characters are experiencing, because it's the mirror making them relive the traumatic parts of their childhood. It's not just shown to you, the viewer, for your benefit. It's part of their torment.
I think my favorite thing about that is watching both timelines happen at once. It brings into question more than anything else they could have done the validity of either timeline.
Yeah.
Because like I'm watching the flashbacks and it's like, well, is this how it happened, or is it happening this way to make it look even worse?
Yeah, even this,
and like
how much
bring
of this
Tim
is
back
even
down.
real? Yeah.
And then in the main timeline, it's like, well, how can I trust anything they're doing, because they're also hallucinating their own past.
Yeah.
You know, and everything converging, and the memory of shooting his dad and damaging the mirror. Like, sure, it's a victory moment where we get to be like, yeah, they broke the mirror, but it's still a horrible moment for him.
Right,
it's the moment that sent him into the like mental institution. You know?
Well, and even if that hadn't happened, how well are you going to recover from shooting your own goddamn dad? Like,
not well.
Like, there was no way for that
That's
to end
actually,
well.
And that's something that one of the things I really, really, really like about this movie is I like a movie where the protagonist is not necessarily the good guy, and Kaylee is the secondary villain of this movie for me.
Yeah,
because
I follow that for sure.
She's so mad at Tim for moving on and forgetting their past, but if she had not brought him back to the mirror, he would have lived a full life, totally normal. He had moved on and was like, yeah, everything really sucked, but as it turns out, our parents just snapped one day, and it was horrific and awful, and I never want to live it again. But that's just how it happened.
He was just going to move forward. Yeah,
he was ready to move forward. He had taken all of his classes. He had like passed brain grades with flying colors, you know, like they let him out and he was ready to go. And then his first day out, where he's like finally stable again, and his sister's like, so glad you're out. Weird that they wouldn't let me see you. And he's like, I didn't want to see you because I needed to get some stuff in order. And she's like, oh, well, that's rude of you. Anyway, let me tell you about this cool thing. You remember the mirror that fucked up our childhood? I got it.
Yeah.
And
definitely a very sad story for him because he's kind of like pulled along and then gets trapped and then he's arrested at the end.
Yeah, he's shoved headfirst into a problem that he had finally gotten past. And then the story ends with him killing another family member.
Yeah.
And he's never going to get out of jail.
Never.
You know,
There's
he's
no
going to
way.
be in the institution forever. There's nothing he can ever do to save himself now.
Yeah.
Because his sister was too selfish.
And the fact that we're shown him getting shoved into that police car as an adult and as a kid in the same scene is just kind of like, oh, fuck. Like we're watching his two worst moments ever at the same time now. And it really drives home how he's just been absolutely condemned to this from the time that he was a child and has never had any hope of escaping.
Yeah. I'm curious because the mirror is obviously a thing. And they were affected by the mirror in a manner of a few hours like that heavily.
While intentionally feeding it.
Yeah. Does the mirror have an intelligence or is it instinct? Because if it's intelligent, obviously it's like, okay, got away with that one while the police are investigating and kind of like doing their CSI bullshit and like closing the scene.
Right.
Because if it's instinct, I'm curious if it would start fucking with the police as well.
Right.
Or if it's smart, it would recognize they filmed everything, which obviously I've kind of like changed the films to be what I want it to be. But they still filmed at the beginning talking about like, we're going to prove that this mirror is haunted and like all of this bullshit is happening. And that if the police start experiencing bullshit and stuff starts happening to the police, maybe they start believing that something's up with this fucking mirror.
I feel like,
but if it's smart, it'd lay low, you know?
Right. Yeah. I feel like, not answering the question about the mirror's intelligence at all, I feel like this movie could very easily have been sort of a cross between itself and something like The Autopsy of Jane Doe, if either of you have watched that. Where it could be based around the cops in the evidence lockup, or the people analyzing the evidence. You know, they're watching through the videos and trying to figure out, are these two people crazy? They're watching the events of this movie as recorded in the cameras, and they're trying to figure out like what exactly is going on here. And meanwhile, you've got a subplot about like whatever cop it is that's in charge of guarding the evidence lockup and how the mirror is feeding on him.
That would be fun.
And then there's a cool scene later in the movie where they're analyzing all the footage and everything. And they're like, oh, these two obviously, like the guy killed the girl, clearly see it in the video. But then as they're kind of going through the movie and they start experiencing some stuff and they look at like a recording of themselves earlier in the movie and they see something's off or something changed. And they're like, wait a fucking minute.
Yeah, kind of like that scene in Ganjam where they're just like, hey, wait a minute, where did that footage come from? Who shot this? Something like that. That kind of a thing. That could be really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I get the impression that the mirror has an actual like consciousness and intelligence to it because of the specific way that it mimics other people when it's like doing the phone call fuckery and whatnot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when we're talking about a haunted mirror, would its consciousness be something that we would recognize as like a personality, or would it be something more like what we're thinking of as being instinct driven, but with just a greater comprehension of detail to it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a mirror, so it can mirror the way people act, potentially. But yeah.
And that's a neat little theme to be keeping, right? The idea that like a haunted object keeps certain properties of its physical form, but it extends them into the psychic realm, for lack of a better phrase. You know, like it's a mirror, so it does the things that you do when you're standing in front of it, and then because it can copy you visually, since this one is haunted and evil, it's going to copy you in other ways. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Do we have any Noah's notes?
I do indeed have notes.
All right.
And also shared you the
yeah,
link.
it really doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't particularly
you can't
make
read
sense
your
for you.
you can't
to be
read
reading
your
them.
own
Yeah.
notes. Yeah,
Because I could. Like, I could read my first note, which was a WWE Productions jump scare.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
yeah,
What's
that was the
doing
scariest part of the movie. They apparently weren't involved until the filming was completely
there?
done.
Oh,
That's
okay.
hilarious.
They just helped with like distribution,
gotcha.
and it was like one person who worked with WWE that helped produce it.
That's very funny.
Yeah,
There is
so they didn't actually do anything.
So there's speaking of WWE, there's this 2-movie series called See No Evil that stars Kane the wrestler.
Oh,
And
Oh yeah,
God, this movie's bad. But like we might have to watch it sometime because this is
I heard the second one was really bad.
yeah, let me
sorry. The
I
sequel of the
think
movie
I
starring
remember liking it
WWE's
more.
Kane wasn't good. Are you what? Who
Oh
can
no, I
predict
take it back.
that?
No, I'm remembering it now. If you haven't seen the first one, which it's a sequel, so of course it's gonna bank on the first one a little bit, but it was made 8 years later, and it counts on you knowing the first one, and also the movie is played in fast forward.
What?
It's so
The
weird.
whole thing?
Like it's how it feels.
Oh,
You're
okay.
watching
It's
this
just
movie
rushed.
and everything just happens. It's so, and then it drags, and then it's fast forward.
I mean,
again.
it may be that they just
Oh
didn't
my
have a whole
God.
lot of time to work with Glenn Jacobs, also known as WWE's Kane, because he was too busy being the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
It's possible. I do need to.
I gather he doesn't do a
make
good
it,
job of that, though, so it can't occupy too much of his time.
I need you to know his name is Jacob Goodnight in this movie,
They needed to give him a name that was similar to his
Incredible.
regular name, you know.
so that he would know when they're talking
I will
to
say
him.
hello, Mr. Thompson, and press down hard on your right foot, and you will smile and nod.
I think he's
yeah.
talking to you. So anyway, back to the real notes, though. See No Evil coming, maybe, probably not eventually.
Probably. I mean, we've got so many other things that we've talked about wanting to cover.
So many actually good things.
Right. I want to get us to
Yeah.
cover The Night House sometime soon, because I just recently watched it for the 3rd time because I literally haven't stopped thinking about it since the first time that I watched it. And I really want us to cover it sometime.
All right.
I've watched it once and I didn't enjoy the ending.
Yeah, you said you liked it right up until the end.
But I'm curious on a rewatch if I'll have differing opinions.
I have liked it more and more with each subsequent watch, so I don't know how that's going to go for you, but in any case, we're supposed
Jeff, can
to be...
you read
yeah, we're
Noah's
supposed
notes
to be
for
reading
us?
Noah's notes here.
I need to use the bathroom real
All
fast.
right.
All right. Goodbye, Emma.
I love this early note that just says ponytail swangin'. That
It
is what that
was.
thing's doing, yeah.
It's all that it was doing. The literal only purpose of that shot was to show her ponytail fly back
And
and
it's like,
forth.
it's a long one to be swinging as consistently as it is, too. Like, she had to have been consciously making sure that kept happening. And I mean, you can kind of tell by the way that she's walking in that scene. Like,
Yeah.
the wife has some fake looking red hair, considering she's supposedly the one who gave her daughter red hair, allegedly. Yeah, her hair's like dirty blonde in real life. So you're right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's such an obvious dye red color. Like,
it really kind
regular
of
hair is
like
not that red.
It kind of seems like they were trying to match it to Karen Gillan's hair, but they made it
it's
too
too dark.
red. Yeah, too red and not orange
Yeah.
enough. Like her hair's not orange. It's very like red.
There's
but
like
it's
weird
not,
burgundy undertones
yeah,
in
it's
there.
not that red.
Also, that was one of Nina's favorite things to point out is we're going by Lady and the Tramp logic
Right, yeah.
of
I prefer to think of it as Kermit and
dad
Miss
with
Piggy
brown hair.
logic, where it's like their daughters are pigs, their sons are frogs. Yeah. This man is trying to say, I know there's a full line of connection to the mirror here, but you've got to be honest, this is mostly just coincidence. Okay, so in that whole scene, Tim is, from the absolute first, acting as though she's being ridiculous and irrational. She's really committed to the whole scientific process, though. She has
really
done
is.
so much research. It is obvious that she's been obsessive about it, and that's something to criticize, right? But, like, there's an awful lot of those stories, and it seems like too much to be coincidence. And on top of that, she the premise at the beginning is she's saying, I'm going to prove that it is observable and consistent before I destroy it. And that seems like the most rational way to go about that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Also, just conceptually, I don't know if destroying the glass of the mirror would actually kill the mirror.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious about that. That's a question that there always is in a story that centers around destroying some manner of haunted object, right? It's kind of like, what degree of destruction counts? Like, how badly do you have to fuck this thing up for it to start mattering?
Because it's like all the people that are like, you can't kill a vampire with anything other than a wooden stake. But if you fed a vampire into a wood chipper, even if it regenerates, it's going to take a long ass time.
You're slowing him down.
You have essentially killed a vampire.
Actually, I feel like the way to get around that when you're making a vampire movie is to have like a group of people throw the vampire in the wood chipper, and then like a flock of bats just shoot out the end of the wood chipper, and he reconstitutes himself immediately. I think that's the best recovery.
That's
right?
very funny. I think it would be really funny if he went into the wood chipper and then got hit with a splinter while he was being liquefied by the wood chipper, and it's like, oh damn,
See,
we fed him in there with one branch and he's dead.
I love that idea, but that also kind of draws. It brings up another issue with. I mean, killing vampires specifically is just like nobody's really clear on what the rules are. Every vampire related property, you have to like reestablish what the rules are because they're different every time. And like originally, the purpose of the wooden stake was to stick them down in the coffin so they couldn't come out at night to feed. It's nothing to do with wood having specific like anti-vampire properties or anything like what you see in movies like Fright Night. It was originally just about keeping them in the ground, and that was it.
Also, a lot of these are like ancient superstitions that have no concept of the existence of modern technology and ability.
Most of what gets filtered down into the modern notion of vampires that we've had ever since like Vampire and Dracula came out, most of the stuff that fed into that stuff was older legends regarding like vampires, werewolves, yes, like those were sort of things, but those stories are so like run together, the history of the two, they are frequently the same stories contributing to both, but also a lot of those were stories of how it ends. Revenants, actually. You ever read about revenants at all? It's fucking insane. What a revenant is essentially just a dead person, who has been buried, but has continued to walk among the living. They just keep getting back up and doing things, whether it's like, I read an account one time of one where this guy would like sit on the side of his wife's bed every night for like a month after he had died and been buried. And she was like really upset about it. And she kept telling him not to keep coming back. And he just kept coming back. And eventually it reached a point where the account says that he became so bold that he would even be walking around the town during the day. So then when they finally exhumed his body to burn it so that he couldn't continue coming back, they found him like, grotesquely swollen and all the classic, his corpse was doing fucked up shit kind of stuff that you see in those sorts of accounts, right? And then they burn him, and they, and then there's accounts of his corpse dancing in the fire, and it's just decomposing body. Yeah, we're talking about a man who was in a box under the ground for months. Weird shit's gonna be happening, but like that's the kind of stuff that you see in accounts of like revenants bothering towns and whatnot. And that's the kind of stuff that ended up getting filtered down through the lens of Dracula and whatnot into our modern vampire mythos. Anyways, that's a massive sidetrack that I just took.
Well, no, but like what I love about that is the way to kill one is you burn it, which is the most destructive force they had at the time.
Yeah, you
which
bring
brings
it
us
all
back
the way
to the
down
wood
to
chipper.
dust. Yeah, so that brings us back to haunted objects. Yeah, how do you destroy this mirror in a meaningful way? Is it just about shattering the primary reflective surface so that it can't reflect people effectively anymore, or do you have to burn the frame as well? They mentioned specifically actually that the frame is made from a single piece of black cedar, which cool for a piece like that, very impressive, cool as hell. Yeah, especially for a piece that old, for it to have held together that well. But like, how much do you need to do? Is this one of those things like where no matter what degree of destruction you reach, it will never be entirely powerless? So you have to like take all the, the remaining pieces, the ashes of the frame, the pieces of the broken glass, and like put them in a mirror lined box and throw it in the ocean or something like that. Or
I love mirror lined box.
I love that as a concept to
let's lock it
contain
up.
things, right? That's so fun.
I think, this is all just speculation, but like they drew attention to the fact that they cracked the mirror before on accident. And that seemed like a big deal. And so I think you've got to like shatter it.
That's the impression you get, right?
Because the glass, glass should be easy to break over a period of hundreds of years.
Well, that's another thing though.
So
would it be made out of glass if it's that old, or would it be made out of like a thin layer of polished silver? In which case it would be far harder to break.
I think they said it was glass.
Yeah, it would be glass over silver.
Either way, sturdier than your average
mirror.
Modern mirror.
Yeah.
My mirror in the corner there, I could punch that with a rock and it would shatter to pieces. It would.
All right, we should get back to actually reading the notes.
My mirror in my room, I could probably shoot it with a gun and it shatter.
I bet it would.
Mm-hmm. Not much I couldn't shoot with a gun and make it shatter, if we're being honest, you know what I'm saying? All right, Jeff, note us up.
Alan trudging up the stairs like he's made out of a sack of bricks.
He is.
Yeah. Oh, there's this note about the light bulb bite. Do you want to describe that real quickly?
Oh, okay.
Holy shit, this is my favorite scene in the movie, probably. This is the one that has stuck with me the most.
Kayla's going around and replacing light bulbs. Because when they go out, it's not an electrical thing. It's the light bulb burns out. So she replaces a light bulb and is eating an apple because it's the food alarm went off and it's time to eat food. So she takes a bite of an apple, sets it down next to her box of lights, screws in a new bulb. It lights up and then immediately dies. And she's like, oh, okay. Takes that bulb out, puts it down next to her apple, screws in a fresh light bulb. It stays lit and she's like, cool. It shows her very intentionally picking the apple up, walks away, and as soon as her back is to us, she goes to bite the apple and we hear a glass crunch.
Yeah.
And we see her in her hand is a broken light bulb that she just took a bite out of. She's panicking. She's spitting everywhere. She's trying to take the giant piece of glass out of her mouth that she just bit into it. And then Tim comes in and he's like, Kaylee, what's going on? She's holding the apple again and had spat out a chunk of apple into her hand.
Oh, and Karen Gillan's acting in that scene is so good. She's so convincingly and understandably horrified.
The double reverse on that one really, really did it for me.
And the way that they set it up initially by just showing the light bulb sitting on the table and the apple getting set down puts it in your mind a couple of minutes before it even happens. So it kind of like you see it getting set up and you're like, oh God, no. And then it doesn't happen and you're like, okay, cool. And then you hear the crunch and you're like, fuck.
And then it undoes and you're like, Jesus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. Oh, okay. So there's this other note. There's this note that just says Timbo. There's a handful of brief moments where it's mostly the dad saying this. He just refers to Tim as Timbo. There is, I think, only one scene where Kaylee calls him Timbo, and it's very casual early on in the movie. And it stuck out to me so much that I was like paying attention to it through the rest of the movie. Like, is this just a thing that he's called? Not since he was a kid,
I gotta be
apparently.
honest, I don't remember writing that note at all.
It's right between more hand damage
I see
and...
it.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at it.
What was that, Emma?
Can I just say how fucked it is that your brother gets out of a mental institution for killing your dad, the one who called you Timbo constantly, and then you see him and you're like, hey, Timbo.
Yeah. I feel like being a person who has stopped using nicknames for people in the past because of the person who came up with the nickname, I really feel like that's a thing she should have thought of. Like,
yeah.
Noah says, why? After seeing that the mirror is overpowering you, don't you just leave? Like, run away, leave. Don't commit to fighting the mirror. Noah says if he was there at Oculus, he would have stopped it because he's built different.
Yes.
Never mind the fact that there's like 3 different scenes where Timbo tries to leave and the mirror just doesn't let him.
Well, here's the thing. There's the moment when they are outside and they're like, is that actually us inside? Or do we just think that that's us inside? Mm-hmm. But the mirror has a limited range. And I don't think that it could realistically project the world around them enough that if they just kept leaving, either they're going to wake up again inside or they were actually free.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how
different and would have shit my pants and run away.
Right? If you saw yourself
I think
inside
waking up inside is more likely.
Yeah,
because Timbo was outside and then suddenly Kaylee's like, Timbo, what's up? And then he's back inside.
Mm-hmm. That's actually something that Nina liked, that one specifically. Where they mentioned that in the moment when the shot cut, as he's like sitting down and sliding down the door on the outside, you think it's like, oh yeah, this is just a normal shot transition. Every shot does this. This is normal movie shit. But in reality, it was a cool gotcha where it's just like suddenly he's inside, but we saw him go outside. Why would he be inside? And there's just like a little lighting change when he goes between the two.
Yeah.
And it's really clean.
And then she's just like, you just walked over here and sat down. You never went outside. Like, yeah, that's really cool. Again, the memory stuff is all really well played in this movie.
Yeah.
There's parts of it actually that I kind of felt like, calling back to the Night House, there's a bunch of scenes in the Night House that do neat little, like, somewhat subtle visual stuff like that I wonder if maybe this was just a slight little bit of an influence on 10 years ago David Bruckner. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to find that out. I probably won't be surprised to find out that that's not it either, but
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Ooh, okay.
I like the note.
What's that?
Oh, go for it.
Okay.
I was going to say, I like the note of Nina horny over Mirror Kate Siegel, then saying, no, wait, that's his wife now. I should be respectful.
Okay, so there's this note that says, I'm a fan of the music in this. The pulsing synth does it for me. Okay, that pulsing synth is really cool, but did you catch the parts where, like, the pulse changes speeds? Like it's keeping pace with, like, a heartbeat or something? Because you know how, like, when you listen closely to a person's heartbeat, just real quick, this is probably how I find out that I have a weird medical condition or something. When you listen to your heartbeat, it's not like perfectly steady. It like kind of speeds up and slows down. That's why they count all the way up to the number of beats in a minute rather than just going by like a shorter period of time, you know? Because like it's about the average over the course of the entire minute, because the whole thing is never going to be like, you know, just a perfect 2 beats per second or something. And there's a couple of spots in the movie where if you pay attention to the pulsing synth note, it's doing that in the specific way that like a heartbeat does, I think. I may be reading too much into it, but I choose to think that I'm not reading too much into it, that I'm reading the correct amount. So I think that's a really neat, like, subtle way to just suggest this thing is alive. I think that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Who did the soundtrack on this one? It was the Newton brothers, I think.
I don't know.
No idea. I can find out.
I want to say, I think it was the Newton brothers, and I want to say that's who does the soundtrack to an awful lot of Flanagan's stuff in general. I want to say that's just kind of like who he goes to.
Music by the Newton brothers. Yep. Nice. I didn't notice the music at all, but I never noticed the music.
Give me a second. I'm going to try and find other stuff that they've done. Aha! The Midnight Club, Midnight Mass. Oh, The Forever Purge. The Haunting of Bly Manor. Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. Hill
The Haunting
House.
of Hill House.
The Bye Bye Man.
Shit. They did the Pee Pee Poo Poo Man.
Bye Bye Man.
Also Gerald's Game.
The Pee Pee Poo Poo Man. And Hush.
And Hush. Yeah, okay, so the Flanagan go-tos when it comes to music, by the looks of things.
Yeah.
And I really did love the music in Midnight Mass.
I'm just checking. I think they have done the music for everything
all of his stuff, I
that
think.
Mike Flanagan has done, except for his first film, Absentia, because that was a very small film.
Right. First ones usually are.
Yeah.
I believe Mike described.
Whoa, they did the music for Pawn Shop Chronicles.
Ho. Yeah, I think I saw one of Mike's Tumblr posts the other day. He was saying that starting shooting on Oculus was like his first time as a professional director. I'm a big boy now. Like, this was a very exciting project for him to be starting on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, Mikey boy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Love the mirror eyes.
Oh, yeah. We got those Mike
Mirror eyes are
Flanagan
great.
shiny eyes.
I haven't seen Gerald's Game, and I don't remember
It's in there,
Hush.
yes.
I don't...
Mhm.
I believe
It
it's
is?
not in
Okay.
Hush because there's nothing supernatural in Hush.
Yeah. I want to ask Mike, what's up with that? Like, it's cool. I
Right,
love
but
it.
it's in
Give me more.
everything.
But I'm also curious. Like, why?
Is there something more to this, maybe? Or is it just like hands, where he's just like, I like messing up hands?
Yeah. But why do you like messing up hands, Mike?
How does that make you feel, Mike?
How does that make you feel? Did something happen to you?
Show me your hands. Are you okay? Show me where on your hands.
Really great how it keeps cutting between the kids and the adults for this. Makes you question the kids' narrative and the adults' narrative at the same time.
Mhm.
Yup.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a big, I'm not sure what's going on kind of at the end.
There's this.
Which it makes you want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's this one note from earlier on that I don't know what it's in reference to, actually. It says stubbed toe for the stubbed toe god.
Oh, it's blood for the blood god. He stubs his toe and then sees the mirror. And that popped into my head, and I'm like, oh, I'll write it down, whatever.
Who stubs their toe?
It was a very clear and distinct thought for me. Alan.
Alan does. Oh, okay. I must have missed that somewhere.
Yeah. It's when he takes the juice out of the fridge and spills it on himself looking at the mirror.
Oh, that's why the immediately next note is that's what you get for stealing juice. Ah.
Yeah. Got it. Then the last note is Tim is going to die in prison because Kaylee couldn't set up the kill switch on the mirror and leave. She didn't have to wait and watch it die. She should have just killed it.
Yeah.
Yep. 1000%.
The thing that really got Becca about this when I showed this movie to her a little while back was just being like, why did Kaylee not pre-record her exposition dump about the mirror and then just like go to destroy it as soon as she had it in her possession? Or like talk about why later or something like that. Like, if the documentation of all the reasons to destroy it is important, sure, understandable, but like, you can do this as separate tasks. You don't need the mirror in the room while you're talking about all that. And I feel like my theory about the whole scheme just being the result of the mirror's influence in Kaylee's mind is like kind of wraps that up as neatly as it can.
Yeah, I think so. Do we have any final thoughts?
That's about it for
I think
me.
that's been all of mine.
Yeah.
Fun movie.
I think
Worth
overall,
watching. Yeah.
fun movie. Really enjoyed it. I'm
Holds
excited
up to a rewatch.
to see.
Yeah.
I'm excited to kind of see Mike Flanagan's style evolve over time. It's going to be good.
And we're going to be moving forward through his career from here now, hitting Hush and Gerald's Game next time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, double feature. Our first double feature.
When did Hush come out? Like
Double
2015?
feature Hush Game.
I think so.
Hush was 2016. Gerald's Game was 2017. He had 3 movies come out in 2016.
Busy times.
Hush, Before I Wake, and Ouija Origin
That's
of
right.
Evil.
He did Before I Wake. I got to watch that.
Yeah.
I do hate squeegee movies.
I haven't watched
Origin of Evil was
Squeegee
okay, but the one
movies?
before it was so
Was
garbage.
that Resurrection?
I don't remember, man. One of the things I know, though, is that I've confused the haunted house segment from VHS, like the Halloween bit, with the Ouija movie.
You mean, wait,
But
like
really?
the Cast Him Down one?
Yeah.
Really?
There's elements of that. Yeah, but like the movie is ass and the short is fun.
Oh, right.
And I think the good parts of the movie I have attached to the VHS segment.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we watch the VHS segment, it is literally everything that I remembered. And I think it might just be that the house is similar.
Gotcha. If
Wasn't good.
if we end up covering Origin of Evil for the sake of Mike Flanagan, obviously we won't be requiring this of everyone, but I specifically will bite the bullet and watch the previous Ouija movies for context.
That is very kind of you.
More power to you.
I'm willing to be the one who takes
probably
that
not.
one for the team.
Yeah. Well, we should have 3 more Flanuary episodes.
3, jeez.
So one is, Hush and Gerald's game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could do Before I Wake and Ouija Origin of Evil. And that basically hits all of his movies except for his first
and
one.
Which I've heard is very good.
That'll take us through to March, won't it?
Yep.
And then things will
And
happen
then we
in
figure
March.
out what we do after that, yeah. If you got specific
March.
movies that you want us to cover, let us know in the Discord. We will listen.
M for March of the Penguins, March of the Zombies.
We'll be covering zombie movies in March. Let us know what zombie movies you want us to cover. We will listen.
Well, all right. Thank you all so much for listening and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. I'm Emma. You can find me online at Emma Panada. Or I'm also writing a TTRPG called All the Witches, and you can find information about that at allthewitches_ on Twitter, or All the Witches on Hive, but I haven't been posting there recently, because it feels like things are moving back to Twitter, kind of.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But that's me.
You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD. All the same places as I've always been: Twitch, Twitter, Insta. I've streamed twice this year, and I'm gonna stream more. I know.
No way.
I know. It's
I
happening.
don't believe it.
And I am Jeff. You can find me on Tumblr at What Is It You Pray For. Also, I guess still on Twitter at Bubba Wubba Dab. I'm still really not, you know. There's also, though, the podcast Tumblr that we've just created.
Oh yeah, we have the podcast Tumblr
which
now. It's super inactive at the moment, but it will come back. It will happen.
Nice. What's that?
What is that? Is it?
I think it's Casual Horror Pod. Let me dig through the sea of spam bots that are following me so I can Casual Horror Pod on Tumblr.
Okay, dope. And Nina, you can find them at Nina Wolverina basically everywhere except for Tumblr, where they're Nina Wolverina, but with a 3 where the E is, because they locked themselves out of their
Nina
own account.
Wolf 3 Rena.
Didn't get it back. Yeah. But yeah, thank you all so much. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you for the next episode of Flanuary. Goodbye.